Right now, wherever you are sitting, whatever time it is, there is a version of you that exists 12 hours from now who knows how to close a wound, purify water from a ditch, start a fire without a lighter, patch a torn shelter wall, preserve meat without refrigeration, and coordinate a neighborhood on a $2 radio. That version of you is not hypothetical. That version requires one day. Not a weekend course, not a certification program, not $1,000 survival school. One afternoon and one evening. 6 skills. And when I tell you that these 6 capabilities are the difference between being a passenger in a group and being the person everyone needs alive, I am not guessing. I am reading the data from every post-disaster after-action report published in the last 30 years. The variable that predicts group survival is not supplies. It is not weapons. It is not location. It is the number of people in the group who can do something useful when the infrastructure that did it for them no longer exists. Here is how the day works. 6 skills grouped in pairs. Morning, afternoon, evening. Each pair takes roughly 2 hours. I will walk through every one, what to learn, how to practice, what materials to buy, and which role inside a group of 8 each skill fills. By the time we reach the end, you will have a plan for one day that changes your answer to the single most important question in any post-collapse group. What can you do? We start in the morning, 7 a.m., kitchen table. First skill, wound closure. Not surgery, not field medicine from a movie where someone cauterizes a gash with a heated knife. Wound closure, the real kind. The kind that prevents infection, controls bleeding, and keeps a person functional for the next 48 hours until something more definitive can happen. The Community Emergency Response Team program, CERT, trains civilians across the United States in exactly this skill. Over 150,000 Americans have completed the training. The wound closure module takes 45 minutes. 45 minutes. And what those 45 minutes teach is the single highest value medical skill a non-professional can possess. Here is what you learn. Butterfly closure strips, adhesive strips that pull wound edges together without sutures. They cost less than $4 for a pack of 30. You clean the wound with clean water, not hydrogen peroxide, not alcohol on an open wound, those damaged tissue. Clean water. You dry the skin on both sides of the wound. You apply the first strip perpendicular to the wound at the center point, pulling both sides together firmly, but not so tight that the skin blanches white. You work outward from the center, alternating sides, spacing strips 3 to 4 millimeters apart. For a 3-inch laceration, you use 5 to 7 strips. Then you cover with a non-adherent pad and secure with medical tape. Total time from injury to dressed wound, under 10 minutes once you have practiced twice. Then, wound packing. Deeper wounds, the kind that butterfly strips cannot close because the tissue gap is too wide. You take clean gauze and you pack it gently into the wound cavity, not forcing it, layering it in Z-fold patterns so that the gauze contacts every surface. This creates even pressure, promotes clotting, and prevents the wound from closing on the surface while remaining open underneath, which is how infections start. Apply a pressure dressing over the packing, secure with tape or a bandage wrap. This is not a permanent fix. This is a bridge, a way to keep someone functional and uninfected until conditions allow for better care. And in a scenario where the nearest hospital is no longer staffed, that bridge is the difference between a recoverable injury and a life-threatening one. Practice material. A pork shoulder from any grocery store, $4. The tissue density and skin resistance are close enough to human tissue that CERT programs use it for training. Buy one this Saturday. Practice butterfly closures on cuts you make with a kitchen knife. Practice packing on deeper incisions. Do it 5 times. It will feel strange the first 2. By the 5th, your hands will know what to do. That is muscle memory. That is what you are building. Not knowledge, capability. In a group of 8, this skill fills the medic role. Not fully. A medic with paramedic training is irreplaceable. But a person who can close a wound competently under stress fills 80% of the gap. And 80% is the difference between an infection at day 12 and a recovered member at day 12. Second skill. Still morning, 9:30. We stay at the kitchen table, but we move to water. 3 field purification methods. Not 1, 3. Because each method has conditions where it fails, and a person who knows only one method has a single point of failure. Method 1. Boiling. Obvious, but the details matter. Water must reach a rolling boil, visible, vigorous bubbles breaking the surface, and maintain that boil for a minimum of 1 minute at sea level. Add 1 additional minute for every 1,000 feet above sea level. Boiling kills bacteria, viruses, and protozoa. It does not remove chemical contaminants or heavy metals. If the water source is downstream from an industrial site or agricultural runoff, boiling alone is not sufficient. Method 2. Chemical purification with unscented household bleach. Standard household bleach, sodium hypochlorite at 5 to 8% concentration. 8 drops per gallon of clear water. 16 drops per gallon of cloudy water. Stir. Wait 30 minutes. The water should have a slight chlorine smell after 30 minutes. If it does not, add 8 more drops and wait another 15 minutes. This method kills most bacteria and viruses. It is less effective against certain protozoa, particularly Cryptosporidium. Cost. 1 bottle of bleach, under $3, purifies approximately 3,200 gallons. Method 3. Improvised filtration combined with purification. This is the one most people skip, and it is the one you need most in the field. Take a clean container. A 2-liter plastic bottle with the bottom cut off works. Layer inside it, from bottom to top, a cotton cloth or coffee filter at the neck, then a layer of fine sand, then a layer of coarse sand, then a layer of small gravel, then a layer of large gravel, then another cotton cloth at the top. Pour water through the top. Gravity pulls it through each layer. The sand removes particulates, sediment, and many larger organisms. Then boil or chemically treat the filtered water to kill what the sand did not catch. This 2-stage method, physical filtration followed by biological purification, handles the widest range of contaminant types and is buildable from materials available in any suburban environment within 30 minutes. Practice all 3 today. Boil water on the stove and time 1 minute. Mix bleach into a gallon jug and smell it after 30 minutes. Build a gravity filter from a soda bottle and sand from a hardware store. Total investment? 1 hour and about $9. You now understand water purification not as a concept, but as a procedure you have performed with your hands. And in a group, this fills the water management role. The person responsible for ensuring that every member has access to safe drinking water every day. Without this role filled, the first gastrointestinal infection arrives between day 4 and day 7. Ask anyone who has studied the refugee camps in Cox's Bazar or the aftermath of the Haiti earthquake what happens when water purification fails in a dense group. The answer is cholera. And cholera, untreated, has a fatality rate above 50%. 2 skills, 1 morning, and something has already shifted. Not in the world, in the set of options available to you. Yesterday, a deep cut meant panic, gauze pressed hard and hoping it would stop. Today, it means a procedure. Yesterday, a broken water main meant a trip to the store or a call to the city. Today, it means 3 methods, any of which works with materials found within 200 feet of any suburban house. These are not abstract gains. These are capabilities that compress the distance between crisis and function, and in a group, they fill 2 of the 6 critical roles that determine whether the first week is survivable or catastrophic. 2 roles filled, 4 to go. Afternoon, 1 p.m. We move outside. Third skill, fire starting with a ferro rod. Not a lighter, not matches, a ferrocerium rod and a steel striker, a combination that works wet, works in wind, works at altitude, works after being submerged, and works after being stored for 20 years. A ferro rod costs between $6 and $12. It will produce approximately 12,000 strikes. That is enough to start a fire every single day for over 30 years. The technique is not complicated, but it is specific. You do not scrape the rod toward the tinder. You hold the rod still, brace it against the tinder bundle, and pull the striker backward toward your body. This keeps the rod stationary. The sparks land on the tinder, and your hand movement does not scatter the tinder bundle. This is the single most common mistake, scraping forward, blowing the tinder apart before the sparks can ignite it. Reverse the motion. Pull back. The sparks go forward, into the bundle. The tinder bundle matters more than the rod. Dryer lint from a household dryer, free, available in every American home, is one of the most reliable fire-starting materials available. Cotton balls, coated in petroleum jelly, are another. A single cotton ball with a thin layer of petroleum jelly burns for approximately 3 to 4 minutes, more than enough time to ignite kindling. Collect both. Store them in a sealed plastic bag. 12 cotton balls in a travel-sized jar of petroleum jelly weigh less than 2 ounces and occupy less space than a deck of cards. Go into the backyard this afternoon. Build a tinder bundle from dryer lint. Brace the ferro rod against the bundle. Pull the striker back. It will take between 3 and 10 strikes the first time. By the 5th attempt, you will be igniting the bundle in 1 to 2 strikes. By the 10th, you will not think about it. That is the threshold, the point where the skill moves from your conscious mind to your hands. And once it is in your hands, it stays. In a group, fire is not a luxury. It is water purification, food preparation, warmth, light, morale, and signaling compressed into a single capability. The person who can reliably produce fire under any conditions fills a role that touches every other function the group depends on. Without that person, the group is one rainy night away from cold food, unpurified water, and the kind of demoralization that turns disagreements into fractures. Fridtjof Nansen understood this when he selected the 13 men who would accompany him on the Fram expedition into the Arctic in 1893. Every crew member was required to demonstrate proficiency in fire starting, water purification, and wound management before the ship left port, regardless of their primary role. The ship's doctor could start a fire. The navigator could dress a wound. The mechanic could purify water. Nansen's reasoning was precise. In a small group operating in extreme conditions, any single point of failure, any skill held by only one person, becomes a catastrophic vulnerability the moment that person is incapacitated. Redundancy of critical skills across the group was not optional. It was the architecture of survival. 13 men. 3 years on the ice. All 13 returned alive. Fourth skill. Still afternoon, 3 p.m. We come back inside. Textile repair, sewing. The word sounds domestic, mundane, irrelevant to survival. It is none of those things. In a post-infrastructure environment, every piece of fabric, every jacket, every tarp, every tent wall, every sleeping bag, every backpack is irreplaceable. The zipper industry, the synthetic fabric industry, the fast fashion supply chain that allows Americans to replace a torn jacket for $19. All of that ceases to exist. What remains is what you have. And what you have will tear. It will wear through at the elbows, at the knees, at the seams where stress concentrates. A person who can repair a torn seam extends the functional life of that garment by months. A person who can patch a hole in a sleeping bag keeps someone warm through a winter night. A person who cannot do either watches critical equipment degrade into uselessness. The Cubans understood this before most Americans ever will. During the special period, 1991 through 2000, when the collapse of Soviet subsidies cut Cuba's GDP by approximately 35% and imports of clothing, fabric, and consumer goods dropped to nearly zero, the population adapted through a national culture of repair. Clothing was mended, remended, and mended again. Shoes were resoled with tire rubber. Backpacks were patched with seat covers. Skills that had been considered obsolete, hand sewing, cobbling, fabric patching, became the infrastructure that kept a nation clothed. Not factories, hands. Individual hands with needles and thread multiplied across 11 million people. What you learned this afternoon, the running stitch, the back stitch, and the whip stitch. 3 stitches. A running stitch joins 2 flat pieces of fabric. A back stitch creates a stronger seam, nearly as strong as a machine stitch, by doubling back on each stitch. A whip stitch closes edges and repairs tears by looping thread over the fabric edge. Buy a sewing kit from any dollar store. Practice on an old shirt. Cut a deliberate 6-inch tear. Close it with a back stitch. It will take you about 20 minutes the first time. By the 3rd repair, you will finish in under 8 minutes. Add a heavy-duty needle and a spool of waxed thread, the kind sold for leather work, and you can repair canvas, denim, nylon, and most shelter materials. Total cost? Under $5. Skill acquired in 1 afternoon. In the group, this is the maintenance role, and it is the one that every prepper channel ignores because it is not dramatic. There is no YouTube thumbnail for a man sewing a torn jacket at a kitchen table. But 3 months into a prolonged disruption, when every garment has been worn daily, washed in cold water, dried on a line in the sun, and stressed past its design limits, the person who can repair is the person who keeps the group clothed, sheltered, and equipped. The Cubans did not build new factories. They extended the life of what they had. And extending the life of what you have is the quiet, invisible skill that separates a group that holds through winter from a group that freezes because no one could fix a sleeping bag zipper. 4 skills down. The afternoon is over. We have covered wound closure, water, fire, and textile repair. 4 roles in a group of 8 now have a name attached. 2 remain. And the evening is where we close the circle. Evening, 6 p.m. The day is not over. 5th skill, food preservation. 3 methods: smoking, salting, and sun drying. Each one extends the shelf life of protein from days to months, without refrigeration, without electricity, without any technology more complex than what existed in 12,000 BC. Smoking. Build a simple cold smoke setup, a metal container, a trash can works, with a small fire source at the bottom producing smoke but minimal heat, a grate or wire rack in the middle holding thin sliced meat, and ventilation holes at the top allowing airflow. Hardwood chips, hickory, oak, apple, produce smoke. Softwoods, pine, cedar contain resins that make the meat bitter and potentially harmful. Cut meat into strips no thicker than 1/4 inch. Salt the strips first. 1 tablespoon of kosher salt per pound of meat, rubbed into the surface. Hang or lay on the grate. Maintain smoke for 6 to 12 hours at temperatures below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The smoke deposits antimicrobial compounds, phenols, and formaldehyde onto the meat's surface while the low heat slowly dehydrates the interior. Properly smoked meat stores for 2 to 4 weeks at room temperature without refrigeration. Salting. Simpler. Pack meat strips in a container between layers of salt, coarse kosher salt or sea salt, not iodized table salt. The ratio is 1 pound of salt per 5 pounds of meat. The salt draws moisture out of the meat through osmosis, creating an environment too dry and too saline for bacterial growth. After 24 hours, remove, rinse lightly, and hang to air dry for 12 additional hours. Salt-cured meat stores for 1 to 3 months, depending on humidity and temperature. Roman legions carried salt-cured meat, buccellatum, as their primary field ration. It worked in the deserts of North Africa and the forests of Germania. It will work in a suburban garage. Sun-drying. Cut meat thin, under a 1/4 inch. Salt lightly. Lay on a clean surface in direct sunlight with airflow. A window screen elevated on blocks works perfectly. In dry climates with humidity below 60%, thin sliced salted meat dries to shelf-stable jerky in 24 to 48 hours. In humid climates, combine with smoking or move to a warm, ventilated indoor space. The finished product should bend without breaking and show no moisture when squeezed. Properly dried meat stores for 1 to 6 months. Practice tonight. Buy 2 pounds of any inexpensive beef cut. Slice thin. Salt 1/4 of it, smoke 1/4, dry 1/4, and combine methods on the last 1/4. Total cost, under $14. By tomorrow morning, you will have preserved protein on your counter, and you will understand, physically, practically, that food preservation is not a chapter in a book. It is a set of hand motions, a set of ratios, and a set of time windows that are now part of what you know. In the group, this fills the food management role, not the person who distributes food, but the person who ensures that perishable food does not perish. When fresh game comes in, when a garden produces more than can be eaten in a day, when a barter trade brings protein that must be stored, that person knows what to do. Without them, surplus becomes waste within 72 hours. With them, surplus becomes reserves that carry the group through the gaps. 6th skill. Last one. 8 p.m. Radio communication. Not ham radio licensing, that is a deeper investment. Basic FRS and GMRS radio operation. Family radio service radios, the kind sold at Walmart for $20 to $40 in a 2-pack, operate on 22 channels with no license required. Range in open terrain, 1 to 2 miles. Range in suburban terrain with buildings and trees, 1/2 mile to 1 mile. Limited but functional. And in an environment where cell towers are down, internet is gone, and the only information available is what you can see from your roof. A 1/2 mile communication radius transforms your group from isolated to connected. What you learned tonight. Channel selection. Pick a primary and a backup channel. Avoid channel 1, which is the default and therefore the most congested. Squelch codes. Privacy codes that filter out traffic from other users on the same channel. Scheduled check-ins. The practice of making brief transmissions at fixed times, not continuous chatter. A check-in protocol works like this. Every 2 hours, on the hour, primary channel. Each member transmits their call sign and a brief status. Duration, under 10 seconds per person. This keeps the channel clear, confirms that each member is functional, and provides a rhythmic structure that reduces anxiety. You know that in 2 hours, someone will check in. You know that if they do not, something has changed. That information, who is accounted for, who is not, is the foundation of coordination. The Chilean miners trapped in the San Jose mine in 2010 survived 69 days underground, in part because they established a communication protocol within the first 48 hours. 33 men divided into work shifts, assigned roles, and, critically, implemented a scheduled check-in system using their limited intercom capability. Every shift change, every meal distribution, every medical check was communicated through a fixed protocol. Not because it was efficient, because it was predictable. And predictability in a crisis is the closest thing to control that a group under stress can achieve. When the rescue drill finally broke through on the 17th day, the miners had maintained organizational coherence for over 2 weeks in complete isolation. The rescue team expected to find chaos. They found a functioning system. 33 men, 69 days. All 33 rescued alive. Buy a 2-pack of FRS radios. Tonight, walk to opposite ends of your house. Select Channel 7. Set a privacy code. Transmit. Receive. Walk outside. Test range. Walk to a neighbor's house if you are comfortable doing so. Test through walls, around corners, at distance. Learn where the signal holds and where it drops. That 30-minute exercise will teach you more about practical radio communication than any manual. Map your results. Literally draw a diagram of your street and mark where signal was strong, where it was weak, and where it disappeared. That map becomes operational intelligence the moment you need it. In a group, communication is the nervous system. Without it, every other skill operates in isolation. The medic does not know who is injured. The water person does not know where the clean source shifted. The fire person does not know which shelter needs heat tonight. With communication, even basic two-way radio communication on a half-mile radius, every skill connects to every other skill. The group stops being 8 individuals doing separate tasks and becomes a coordinated organism where information flows. That transition, from parallel to connected, is the single largest force multiplier available to a small group, and it requires no ammunition, no fortification, and no advanced technology. 2 radios, 1 protocol, 1 schedule, and the group can see itself. 6 skills, 1 day. Wound closure, 45 minutes. Water purification, 1 hour. Fire starting, 45 minutes. Textile repair, 1 hour. Food preservation, 2 hours. Radio communication, 30 minutes. Total, roughly 6 hours. Cost, under $50 for all materials combined. And what you have at the end of those 6 hours is not a certificate. It is not a title. It is not a line on a resume that no one will ever read. It is something that no amount of stored food, no stockpile of ammunition, no reinforced door can replicate. The ability to do something that keeps other people alive. That is not a metaphor for value. That is value. The irreducible, non-negotiable kind that makes a group decide you are worth feeding, worth protecting, worth keeping. Nansen chose 13 men and required every one of them to carry skills beyond their specialty. The CERT program has trained over 150,000 civilians in the past 2 decades. Ordinary Americans who learned wound closure on a Saturday morning and water purification on a Saturday afternoon. The Cubans repaired their way through a decade of collapse using needles, thread, and the decision that throwing things away was no longer an option. 33 miners organized themselves underground, using a $2 intercom and a schedule written on a wall with a rock. None of them waited for conditions to be perfect. None of them waited for someone else to go first. They looked at what was needed, and they learned it. The question is not whether you have time. The question is what you will be able to answer when someone in your circle, your family, your neighbors, the 7 people standing in your living room on the 3rd night, looks across the room and asks, "Who here can do something we need?" That answer is 12 hours away, and it starts with a pack of butterfly strips, a ferro rod, and the decision to spend 1 Saturday building the version of yourself that your group cannot afford to lose. Not next month. This Saturday. 6 skills. 1 pork shoulder, 1 ferro rod, 1 spool of waxed thread, 2 pounds of cheap beef, 2 radios, 1 afternoon. And the answer changes.